Hey everybody, my name is Angie Morenga. You're watching Just Angie. It's Ustawi segment. I love it where we discuss all things purpose, leadership, and governance. And my guest, I've known them for a very, very long time, is the man I honor very, very much. And I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then we're going to get straight into it. So, karibu sana Ranja.
Thank you, Angie. Should I call you Pastor Angie?
No,
I know you as Angie. So.
Angie, you've known me as Angie for many years, so Angie is good.
Okay. So my name is Andrew Ranja. I am a 45-year-old. I'm actually turning 45 this week.
Oh, good.
Yeah, on Thursday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I am married, one wife, 3 kids. I am Kenyan, from Kiambu. I am trained as a lawyer. I work as a lawyer, and I'm also a politician.
Very amazing. So I've always known you as a lawyer. So today it's about governance. So when I saw, but I keep seeing these posts, social media posts on Taifa Teule, Taifa Teule, Taifa Teule. So I started even messages, WhatsApp and everything. So I was like, okay, so there's something about governance that's happening here. So that's what I wanted to talk about. But you've always been a lawyer, a really good lawyer, and we've always had a good working relationship. I send you clients and you also get some to call me because one of the things, I think because we met at Mavuno Church, it must have been the original Mavuno. Yes. When we started. That's where we started our journey. Yes. And then I remember because of our values, that's where it would start. Like if somebody comes to you to get a divorce case, you'd ask them to call me. And even me, some of them, they want to get divorced. I said, okay, first go. If I've worked with them, I said, now go listen to Ranja. And it's always been an amazing relationship that way in terms of getting people to first consider what it is they want to do from a value perspective. Yes. But then now there's Taifa Teule. And I asked you what Taifa Teule means. So Taifa Teule means?
Taifa Teule means chosen nation. It's Swahili for chosen nation.
Chosen nation. So why the name? Why a chosen nation?
I believe that God has a big plan and purpose for Kenya as a nation. And so God has chosen us to be an instrument of influence for his kingdom in the world as a nation. And I think that we need to discover and tap into that. And so that we rise to that calling as a country. And so I like to train young people on leadership and governance. And I tell them, you are the chosen nation. And that's why Taifa Teule.
And I'm thinking it actually, even the name will make you now rise to that occasion, that it's not just something that's happening randomly. I've been chosen, and so this is a calling. Correct. And you've been training the young people on this. But in terms of your journey, please just tell me how Taifa Teule came into being. First, let's discuss that one. How did it come into being? Why?
So it's an interesting space. I grew up as a child, 7, 8 years old. I had this crazy interest in history, politics, government. Wow. And so I was this weird kid who would want to buy books about Jomo Kenyatta, about the Mau Mau, about history.
Ranja, that is so weird. At 7 and 8?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
In particular, I remember when I was in a school called Visa Osho Primary in Westlands, and we would have the top children, in a particular class at the end of exams would have a prize giving day, and you would get a book token. So you like a voucher, and you would go to textbook center, Sarit Center, and buy something. So my favorite things were an Oxford set, which I couldn't get from my parents because they'd never buy me an Oxford set; it was too expensive. And what was the other thing? Paints. I used to like painting. And a book about Jomo Kenyatta, or about history of Kenya, or about the independence struggle. Amazing. 8 years. So that's sort of where it started, and just having this deep interest in politics and government. And but then having the trick of my parents not quite understanding it.
Yes, I'm not quite understanding it now.
And so they don't know how to feed that interest. So they would not necessarily buy me anything. But then I discovered when I was about 12, 13, I discovered that my dad had a stash of weekly reviews
Yes,
by
it was a
Hilary
magazine.
Ngweno.
Yes.
It was a very political magazine.
Yes.
And it was like, it was like the time of Kenya, it was quite interesting. So he had like magazines from 1977 all the way to 1984. And by the time I was 14, I had read all
of them.
So
that was your content.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. So I knew so much. I learned so much about Kenyan politics, So this was just feeding me, and I didn't know that why I was so interested in this, but I couldn't really share it with anyone because no one else understood. So much so that later on, when Hilary Ngweno came up with something called Makers of a Nation.
I remember. And they filmed it, didn't they?
Yes. It was boring for me because I knew everything. I would verbalize everything that they're saying. So sometimes even fact checking because I'm like, no, that's not what happened. So that's a little bit about my interest in politics.
So you were chosen, even you. The choosing and the calling looks like it. Well, it came in at 7 or 8 years old.
I think so.
Unbeknown to you.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah, and even my choice of doing law.
In school now, for university?
Yes, for university.
Again, history. There's a lot of history.
No, it was influenced by, remember, I'm inspired by politicians.
Yes.
So I looked around and I saw Nelson Mandela is a lawyer. At the time, Bill Clinton was president, lawyer. So all this, even his vice president, Al Gore, Tony Blair became prime minister in 1997 when I just finished high school. So all these guys are lawyers. And I said, yeah.
This is the choice.
Yeah.
This is the career choice.
This is what people like me do.
Okay.
So that's how I ended up in law. But then as I grew up, I became an adult, I started hearing these stories about politics being a dirty game. And around 1998, when I was turning 20, I got born again.
Okay.
So I have in me these two tagging things. I want to follow God and do the right thing.
And the values of God.
Yes, but I'm hearing that this thing which I am passionate about
is a dirty game.
I love
and God, so he does his things.
Yeah, and I struggled with that for very many years because I didn't know what to do about it.
What to do now?
This is where I find my inspiration. This is what I like. This is what I like to read. This is what I know. Even trivia, I could name American presidents from backwards up to 1945 in order.
Wow.
So I knew all these things. So, so fast forward to maybe campus, I remember thinking, I'm going to run for office. One day, I know I'm going to run for MP.
For political office.
Some people even started calling me Mr. President because I used to say I want to be president because at the time I thought becoming president was easy. But then in 2005, when Mavuno started, and you were there, the first congregation, Mavuno Church, and I met Pastor Simon. And I remember one of the early sermons, must have been the second or the third Sunday, he stood up and talked about his political journey. Wow. And for the first time, I thought, wow.
Somebody who gets it.
A pastor.
Who's got all this. Yeah, Pastor God.
He's ran for political office. He's talking about politics.
This
and I'm like,
it.
Oh, wow, this is it. So there was, a prayer session after that, and we were told to go and pray, get prayers. And I went straight to him and I told him, yeah, I like politics and I don't know what to do about it. And so he prayed over me, and then that's where our friendship started, and he started mentoring me through that process. Learning about politics, learning about, and it changing from the political power game to beginning to understand that, first of all, this thing was designed by God.
Okay, that's a good place to start. Yes, it was designed by God.
Governance is a God thing.
Oh, governance is definitely a God thing.
We call him King of Kings, which would make him politician of politicians. So, so I began to understand, okay, so if God is the one who's created this is why he has created it. He wants people, he wants society to be organized.
Yes, to be governed.
He wants people to find a livelihood. He wants there to be peace and stability. He's the one who created nations. There is the whole story of how the nation of Israel was created. And so this thing is a God thing. And so this thing that I am feeling is coming from God. And I think that's sort of where I'm now, my journey towards discovering purpose in that process started. And so by the time I was running for elections in 2012, I had sort of found my center.
Okay.
And I decided to run for Member of Parliament in Kiambu constituency. At the time, NARC Kenya, Martha Karua was running for president through NARC Kenya, so I was part of her team and I ran for MP in her party. It was an interesting experience. You learn so much. Anyone who's interested in politics and has never been involved in a campaign, you don't know what you're talking about. So a lot of the lessons I learned there. So first of all, I didn't make it. I got 700 votes. I was number 6 out of 8. But the lessons I learned were like, like a master's degree or a PhD. And so then I decided to chronicle that journey. God gave me this amazing download of explain what journey have you gone through as a politician. What was your struggle with mentorship? What was your struggle with working in the community? What have you learned about leadership? What is leadership? And being able to define leadership as providing solutions in society. And anyone who does that establishes themselves as a leader. And so I decided to put together a training manual and train other young people, target young people. And because we all grow up being told you're the leaders of tomorrow, but no one really tells you what is that
What does
about.
that mean even?
And you get there.
So you broke it down.
Yes, you get to adulthood and you start looking for leadership and you don't know. And the only examples are the guys out there who are doing all kinds of shenanigans. So I decided, let me break this thing down. Let me explain it. And so I wrote a little training manual where we sit down for 10 weeks. We sit in a circle and we just share and talk and talk about the process of leadership, talk about yourself. How are you as a leader? How are you growing? We talk about how you begin to influence the community, how you find out problems in the community, how you can solve them. And we are talking to a 21-year-old who doesn't have money, doesn't have resources. So we tell them, no, you can raise resources if you define a problem, come up with a solution and ask people for help. You will be able to raise resources. So that's what we do. And that's how Taifa Teule started.
So 10 weeks, 10 lessons in a circle to the young. And then you said something which is very interesting. You're talking to that generation because our generation has refused.
Yes.
In other words, us we're... So it's like, I don't know, it's like pouring, is it new wine into new wineskin? So, you've chosen to go for the youth.
Yes.
And they're listening.
Yes.
Are they changing?
So I think they are. I think we're making some progress. I've found that my peers or my generation, we genuinely want change. We want Kenya to be better.
But I think we're tired. Are we tired? What have we done?
I think we are tired. We have, we've accepted the scenario. This is how it is.
This is how it is.
It will never change. I am powerless. And so we've sort of retreated into my career, my nuclear family. Let me just sort myself out. And, ignore the politics, ignore the elections and those kind of things. But I have found that the younger generation, the ones who are just coming into adulthood, the university level, college age, they're still idealistic. They're still open to learning. They still believe that, Kenya can be something. And they even question. My son, my 12-year-old son sometimes watches videos and he's like, why isn't Kenya as developed as, what happened to us? Why don't we have industries? Why don't we? So they're still questioning and they're still willing to.
They're asking questions and they're willing to learn then.
Yes.
And willing to listen.
Yes. And so I found that that younger generation, they're willing to sit and learn and grow. And so they're willing to come and sit for 10 weeks, listen to each other, listen to the facilitators, at the end of the 10 weeks, because it's a very interactive session, they do a community project. They have to fundraise for it. So it's not just theory. You must deliver. Yes, you must go.
You must go hands-on and try to do apply the things that you've been learning in the last 10 weeks.
Yes.
That's very powerful, Ranja.
Yeah. And so we're training them. Of course, you never really, sometimes the motivation, there's someone who's there for just a certificate, but it's okay.
It's all right.
We say we've planted a seed.
We've planted a seed.
Yeah.
And we never know how that can be, how it's going to show up.
Yes.
In other areas of their lives.
Yeah. So for a long time, I wasn't sure whether it was working.
Yeah,
but the evidence for me has come back in the form of volunteers. So the ones who go through the program
come back and want to help. That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Yes.
So it's something, it touched something, it made sense.
Yes.
Now I want to come and give back to others. That's a very good sign. That's a good sign, Ranja.
Yeah. So when we started in 2017, I had a single class. I was the sole facilitator, and now we have 26 classes.
Really?
Yes.
Well done.
Thank you.
26 classes?
Yes.
In different areas?
Yes, in different counties. We have Nairobi County, Kiambu.
Give me a high five. Well done. What?
Yeah.
You're even in counties?
Yes.
Amen.
We have Kajiado County, Machakos. We just did something in Eldoret and Kwale this last cohort. So it's 16 cohorts later.
Yeah.
And so I have a team of about 120
that is
facilitators.
So good. That is so good.
Yeah, so you can imagine, I can't run the classes.
Of course.
These classes, it's even better now because when I'm talking to the youth, they think,
you guys, you look old.
Yeah.
You know old. I'm going to be 60 soon.
Yeah.
And they think you're there. Yeah,
yes.
You now, it's a wrap.
Yes.
You're 1 foot inside, gone, So,
yeah.
So they'd rather talk. So they talk to the younger ones and
Yes.
talk to their peers.
Yes.
Because they see now, you know where I'm coming from.
Yes.
Very amazing.
Yeah, so when your peer is telling you, Kenya can be better, you can do something.
But I'm so grateful.
It's so much more powerful.
Because you've brought hope. That's hopeful.
Yes.
That's hopeful, Ranja.
Yeah.
It's hopeful. You're bringing hope, and I think we can never not sow the seed of hope. We can't give up. We can't give up and lie down and say we are done, which I think, like you said, many of our generation, we haven't lied down. We're like, that guy, those guys call politics, let's just put them here. We put them here. Can we deal with the rest of life? What's going on here? Yeah. And then every time elections come around, we're like, oh my goodness, here we are again.
Yes.
We don't want to deal with them. But I'm glad that you're doing something just to change people's mindsets, show them what's possible, give them hope. That's important. I had asked you a question about, I wanted, it's amazing. I didn't even think it would be you, but I've been wanting even to bring Pastor Simon and ask him, why is it that Christians don't win elections? It's annoying because I'm like, and I'm thinking, okay, so Christians, I could get some flack for, like true Christians, people who really value and say, I am a true Christian, I'm not going to be corrupt, I'm not, these are my values, and I'm not going to, not flow with my values, I'm not going to compromise.
Yes.
So I just find that every time, they could be there because I don't know. I don't have absolute information. But when we run for office or political office, we don't seem to win. And it's a conversation I've been having with God. So at least you're here. You shared with me a bit. So what is the problem, Ranja?
Well, there are several problems for Christians. So the first challenge is sometimes when you're a Christian politician, you make the calculation that your audience are Christians and they will vote for you because they are Christians and you share values. But I have found that the voter, when it comes to voting, does not vote as a Christian. They vote based on whatever other criteria is influencing them. It could be tribe. At that point, it could be that maybe it's an issue that they care about. So this guy is talking about economic empowerment, I'll vote for him. Or this guy is talking about reforms, I will vote for him. And those are the good things. It could be that someone came and gave me some money and I was able to buy some unga or I got a t-shirt.
And that will convert my vote.
Yes. Yeah, it could be that I just connect with this particular candidate. He's funny. I love his speeches. He dresses well. He has a lot of swag. So your average Christian voter will not vote as a Christian.
Well, that's a good answer at least. There are many other circumstances and things that are what is the word? Nudging them in a certain direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Then the second part of that is the Christian politician. We're very naive about how politics works. Now, this is a game of power. And I think even as Christians, we don't see the forces that are involved. Because it's
That's true.
see, power is an interesting thing. It's how you influence the world. It's how you influence communities. And so, without making it too spiritual, but it is a spiritual space. There's a lot of forces at play there. And so, and even in the real world, there's a lot of competition for it, and people are willing to do whatever it takes. So you come in there as a politician and as a Christian politician, like I did the first time, and you think that you can just reason with people. You have to take this thing by force. You have to strategize for it. You don't just come with prayers and expect him saying, I'm a born again Christian, I'm doing there's need for strategy, there's need for understanding how the system works, who are the influential voices, who are the gatekeepers, how does corruption work in the political space. So when we try the first time, we're very naive. And the young people like to use the word character development these days.
Kenya Institute of Character Development, we know it. KICD.
So Christian politicians get a lot of character development. When you get in the first time, it really chappers you. It's a rough place to be. And because you haven't understood it. And what I would encourage a lot of Christian politicians, just dive into it, learn how to do it, so that you grow. And then the next time, maybe you'll figure out, these are the contours, this is how you go about it. This is, and so it's a big challenge.
Wow. How many times have you run?
I've run twice. The first time was 2012, when I was completely naive. And then the next time was now last year. I ran for, again, MP Kiambu. 2022. So it's an interesting space. Now, so what happens is when you run the first time as a Christian and you get bombed by how difficult the space is, one of two things happen, or three things. You could decide, okay, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
So you just decide, okay, the only way to get in here,
let me jump in with them.
Yes, let me just get into this thing. The other thing is to withdraw.
Yeah.
And you just decide, hey, no.
This is not what I signed up for.
Yes, this one, no. This one, God is not inside there, and therefore I'm not in there. So, and unfortunately now when we do that, when we withdraw from the space, you leave the field open for anyone else. And we go against the concept of being the salt of the earth. I am equipped, I have God on my side, I don't need to compromise, and I don't need to withdraw. We need to stay in there, I need to go and just fight it out.
Wow, and that's what you're doing.
Yes.
And then now you're equipping the next generation on what they need to do.
Yes.
And there's as we bring this to a close, there's something you said to me which I thought, wow, Ranja, that's really, I think a lot of us find ourselves there, because I know that this story is going to encourage a lot of people. Is that place where you're doing law, but you want to do governance, you want to do taifa teule. That's the place you'd rather be. But this is the place you said of tent making, like Paul, but you'd really rather be over here.
Yes.
And how do people navigate that? Because it's a hard place. A lot of people are like that. They're not in their passion project, where their passion, their purpose, where they're thriving. And I guess we have questions to ask God. We can still ask him, like, why do you do that? Like now, why the tent making? Yet this is where I feel I could be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. I mean, I have had many difficult conversations with God about it, asking, so why am I here?
Is he answering? Is he not answering you, Ranja? You have to answer someone.
I think he's answering. So what I have found is the legal profession is also... and it's not just a legal profession, really any sector in this country, it can be very murky. and people are willing to take shortcuts. They want to, we want to get ahead, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to get ahead, to get power, to get money, to be successful. Top 40, under 40, we all want to be there. And so legal profession is not different from any of all this, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on. Sometimes you have to bribe to get the work, especially from large corporations, and then you have to bribe to do the work, because the work will come with an impossible turnaround time, and we do a lot of government work, a lot of work in government offices, so the turnaround time pushes a lot of lawyers to
cut corners.
Cut corners. And so what I have found is that this tent making, this legal profession where I am, is where what God is using me to grow me in terms of integrity.
Yeah.
That I have to learn to do things right. I have to learn to just follow the queue. Follow that file in that government office for 2-3 years until it gets done.
Comes.
And grow that muscle. Because I will need that muscle in the governance space. And so I don't have a choice. I realized, so this is how God is growing me. Apart from that is also, I have a team in my law firm, and I have also grown as a leader. My temperament, I'm choleric, melancholy, so I can be very tough, very task-oriented and less people-oriented. And over the last 10 years, I have just found myself learning, okay, you can convince people to work, you can inspire people, so I have grown as a leader.
And you need to inspire the people in the governance space.
Exactly.
There you can't go at them there with your task orientation.
Yeah, you can't.
There are tasks to be done, but there are people here who need to do it.
Yes, you must organize them, you must inspire them, you must get buy-in. But when you're like me, my natural temperament is to command.
Wow.
So it's been a growth process for me. So I feel
like
that thing that you're doing, which may not necessarily be where you feel you should be. It's
growing you.
Yes, God is doing something, is growing you in different ways.
It's working on you.
Yes.
So that you can go out there and do this other thing that you like to do.
Yes.
But He's working on you here. I really like that.
Yeah. So that is sort of been my journey.
Wow. Thank you so much for coming here today. But I don't know, look into that in camera and encourage the chosen people of this nation. Oh my goodness. Encourage the youth to step up and to understand that they can do this.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to say that there is hope for Kenya. There's a lot of doom and gloom moving around. And sometimes when you look around, you don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. There is hope for Kenya. We are a chosen nation. God is doing amazing things, even politically. And however, the trick is, it's not about those people out there. It's not about our leaders. It's not about who is in the government. If we're going to realize that calling, that space, if we're going to attain that thing of being a chosen nation, it has to start with me. I have to change. Angie, I realized that it's not our leaders, it is us. It is me who's willing to jump that traffic light. It is me who's willing to steal that exam.
Take the bribe.
Yeah, take that bribe. It's me who wants to just get ahead. I'm the one who wants to, we call it overlapping, which is driving on the wrong, just off the road to overtake. It is me who wants to do all those things. And it is us as a nation who are trying to do those things. So we're only going to be able to transform Kenya if we make a decision to do things differently. And I think we have an opportunity for that. And so, my encouragement is like, it's possible. You will look foolish, you will look like you're the one who doesn't want to get ahead, but in the long run, it pays off. It pays off.
It pays off.
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think I'm going to have to come again. Maybe we'll do a live one at Taifa Teule, because I feel like this is just the beginning. But thank you so much for coming. I've learned a lot.
Thank you.
And I'm very encouraged about very, very many things. And I'm having lots of conversations in my head, even at this moment. But Ranja, well done. And just keep going and keep doing what God has called you to do.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll put Ranja's contacts on the screen, so you are free to get in touch with him. God bless. Bye.